Hello and welcome to first screencast of several talking about partial budgeting as it relates to machinery investments. So you may be asking yourself, why bother? Well, a partial budget is one way for you to take a test drive of a proposed change without actually having to go through it. As you might ask a machinery dealer to allow you to try a piece of equipment before you purchase it, a partial budget is going to do the same thing for you, but looking more at the dollars and cents of the proposed change rather than actually physically using the tractor or the implement. So what the partial budget is going to do is to help her to answer some questions for you. First of all, it's going to ask you, is the change going to be profitable enough to pay for itself? And if it does, how long will it take for the change to pay off for the investment that you've made in it? So when is it a good idea? There are several times, and these by no means are all of the thoughts or ideas of when you might use a partial budget, but these are just some, especially in the context of machinery purchases. So when you're adopting new technology, you're going to hire custom work. Maybe you're doing some type of tillage work yourself now, and maybe it might be more cost effective for you to hire it done. So a partial budget is one way to project that and see if it indeed will be beneficial to you. Leasing instead of buying a piece of machinery, if you're not using a piece of equipment only seasonally, then maybe leasing it is better than outright owning it. But one way to really figure that out is to do a partial budget. If you're going to modify production practices in any way, looking at and doing a partial budget can help. And in general, any kind of capital improvement, whether it's machinery, a building, or something else on your farm, a partial budget is a good idea. So how does it achieve these results? You're going to look at and determine what additional income might be realized from making this change. What, if any, costs may be reduced with this change in the context of farm equipment. If you've got an older tractor and you're replacing it with a more fuel-efficient, newer tractor, not only the fuel efficiency, but also the fact that generally, hopefully, a newer tractor will have less maintenance costs initially than a tractor that you might be replacing it with. But also you need to look at to see, will there be any decreases in income? Maybe the new piece of equipment will change things so that it may cause a decrease in income. Not always, but it might. Another way to think of that is to think about if you were going to have a custom harvester do your haylage, for example. Well, what if they don't get to your farm on time and have a decrease in forage quality that you're going to be feeding your livestock? That could in turn decrease income that you realize from the production of your livestock. Are there any additional costs that may be associated as well? One thing that oftentimes is that if you are purchasing a new piece of equipment, there's going to be financing involved. So at least for a short period of time, 5-7 years maybe or less, there's going to be a loan payment that has to be made, and so that needs to be taken into consideration as well. So what is the process for doing a partial budget? We're first of all going to state the proposed change. What is it? Is it maybe swapping out an old tire tractor with a newer tractor? And think about what increases in net income may this tractor do for me. The timeliness of harvest will be improved. Therefore, I'll be able to have more higher quality and more product to sell. So it's going to increase my net income. What, if any, decreases in costs might I have with the purchase of this new farm piece of equipment? It might be that, as stated before, might be more fuel efficient tractor or decreased repair and maintenance costs. What decreases in income as well? We already kind of talked about that. Might be timeliness of harvest if you're looking at custom harvester versus doing it yourself. What increased costs? We also mentioned this in our other example of financing. There may be some others that you can think of that might be potentially an increase in costs. And then we're going to summarize all that and look at what is the bottom line. Will this actually increase my profitability projected, or is it actually going to decrease my projected profitability? Then we also need to be thinking about some non-economic factors as well. Is it going to, if, for example, if this piece of equipment or this production practice is going to take less time for you to do, well, that's going to mean maybe less time that you have to devote to do that practice. So it may mean that you're able to do something else or spend more family time. Things like that are kind of hard to put a dollars and cents on, but still something that you may want to help you qualify or look at while you're doing your partial budget. So here's an example of a partial budget that I've taken from Iowa State University. And this is looking at raising replacement heifers to buying heifers. And this is very simplistic. We're not getting into the details of how they came up with these numbers, but we will do that in our examples that we talk about after in another screencast or two. So basically, the increased income would be to sell the raised heifer calves at 500 pounds, and you can see what they are going to anticipate getting it. And this is all on a per calf or per animal basis. We're not looking at how many heifers they are going to be selling, and then consequently looking at how many heifers they're going to be purchasing on an annual basis. But you get an idea, at least on a per animal basis, what this is going to mean for their profitability. So there are no decreases in net income, decreases in costs. We're looking at pasture. You can see them all there. That we're going to be decreasing our pasture, the amount of grain that we need to feed, some minerals, all of them there. Labor is a big one. So we add up our increase in income and our decreases in costs, and we come up with $930. May pause here for a minute. Are there some things that we're missing? Can you think of any that we might be missing so far? Take a moment and think about it. So we're going to go now over onto the right side, and we're going to look at decreases in net income. And they did not think of any, but there are some increases in costs. So they're saying that they're now going to be purchasing bred heifers, and they're going to pay $1,200 for these bred heifers. So we have some increases in net income, but a definite decrease in net income because we have an additional fairly sizable expense that we're looking at this year. So the change in net income is a negative $270. Going back to the right hand side, can you think of anything that may decrease income or increase costs, or any that might influence this and change this picture? May or may not have thought of anything else, but at least we have test driven without having to sell any heifer. We have been, quote unquote, test driven this decision and decided that maybe it's not the best decision for our farm business at this point in time, and we'll continue to raise our own replacement heifers instead of buying them. So how can you increase the confidence in the test drive that you might make? Well, so one place to start is to review and have on handy prior year's finances. You want to have your actual expenses, and ideally, if you're looking for equipment purchases, what are the actual expenses for the piece of equipment that you might be considering replacing. Also having an idea of what your actual income particularly if the piece of equipment that you're thinking about is going to be directly impact some of the crops you might grow. You want to maybe know what kind of income you realized from that crop last year or in previous years. You may also want to use the internet to do some research on some operation costs, machinery prices, field efficiency, and in addition to doing some research on the internet, consult with some of your advisors for your farm, whether it's your farm lender, your extension agent, anyone else that you trust and know, and seek for advice, may be able to provide you with some ideas on how to anticipate what change this new tractor or this new piece of equipment might have on your business. And then also talk with other producers in your area who have made the change and learn from them what impact it's had on their farm business, good or bad. And also on their bottom line, is if they feel that it has increased their profitability or not. So to wrap up here, we're going to say that at the Groundwork website, there are going to be some resources listed that can help you to learn a little bit more about how to do partial budgeting. And here are some of the ones that are listed. Feel free to share any others that you might learn about as you go along through the process. And so we're going to wrap it up here now and stop here with this initial discussion about partial budgeting. And in the next one, we'll be sharing an example of a tractor that you might be contemplating buying to replace an older tractor on your farm, and go through the steps and show you how to actually go through, at least one example of how to go through doing a partial budget. So take care, and we'll hopefully be talking with you again in the next screencast shortly.